Stone Age. The Stone Age takes last place on this list. And honestly, it's not even close. Back when humans were still figuring out that fire was useful for more than just keeping warm, our weapon options were embarrassingly simple. Rocks. Sticks. Maybe a rock tied to a stick if you were feeling fancy. But don't underestimate these primitive tools. One solid hit with a rock could crack a skull open like you're breaking an egg for breakfast. Not pleasant, but effective. Eventually, some genius had the idea to sharpen stones and attach them to the end of sticks, creating the spear. Revolutionary for its time, though by modern standards, it's basically just a pointy stick. Then around 70,000 years ago, someone invented the atlatl, a spear-throwing device that could launch projectiles with enough force to take down large animals. Or your neighbor who kept stealing your mammoth meat. The Stone Age gets a low ranking not because these weapons weren't deadly. They absolutely were. But because what came next makes them look like toys. Ranking. 2 out of 10 for lethality. You had to get pretty close to your target, and if you missed, you were probably getting clubbed in the face. Bronze Age. As civilization started forming, and people realized they could organize into armies, instead of just hitting each other with rocks, weapons had to evolve. Welcome to the Bronze Age, where metallurgy changed everything. The deadliest weapon of this era? The composite bow. This thing was a game changer. Unlike earlier bows made from a single piece of wood, the composite bow used multiple materials, wood, horn, and sinew, to create something that could fire arrows over 300 meters, with enough force to pierce armor. Suddenly, you could kill someone from a football field away without them ever seeing you coming. The Mongols would later perfect this weapon and use it to conquer most of the known world, but its origins trace back to Bronze Age civilizations. Horse-mounted archers with composite bows were basically the ancient equivalent of a drive-by shooting, except way more effective. This era also gave us swords, shields, and the phalanx formation, where soldiers would lock shields and advance as an unstoppable wall of bronze and sharp objects. Terrifying to face, but the composite bow edges out the competition here because of its range and versatility. Ranking. 4 out of 10 for lethality. You could finally kill people from a safe distance, which is always a plus. But you still had to aim, and arrows run out eventually. Medieval era. The Middle Ages brought us castles, knights, and the uncomfortable realization that walls don't mean much when your enemy has siege weapons. And siege weapons are where things got seriously destructive. The deadliest weapon of this era? The trebuchet. This massive machine could hurl 200-pound stones over 300 meters, turning castle walls into rubble, and anyone unfortunate enough to be standing nearby into a red stain. But here's where it gets creative. Armies didn't just throw rocks, they launched dead animals to spread disease, beehives to cause chaos, and sometimes even the severed heads of captured soldiers just to mess with the enemy's morale. The trebuchet worked on a counterweight system, meaning it didn't rely on human strength or tension like a catapult. It was more accurate, more powerful, and more terrifying. Imagine sitting in your supposedly impregnable fortress, feeling safe behind thick stone walls, and then watching a boulder the size of a small car come sailing over the battlements. This era also gave us the longbow, which the English used to devastating effect at battles like Agincourt, and Greek fire, a mysterious flaming liquid that burned on water and couldn't be extinguished. But the trebuchet wins for sheer destructive capability. Ranking. 5 out of 10 for lethality. It could break fortifications and kill dozens at once, but it was slow to reload and required a whole crew to operate. Not exactly portable. Gunpowder era. We've reached the point in history where humanity discovered that explosions could be weaponized, and everything changed forever. The Chinese invented gunpowder around the 9th century, initially for fireworks and celebrations. Then someone asked, what if we pointed this at people instead? The deadliest weapon of this era? The musket. Specifically, the flintlock musket that dominated battlefields from the 1600s through the early 1800s. It wasn't accurate. It wasn't fast. It took nearly a minute to reload. But none of that mattered because it democratized killing in a way no weapon ever had before. With a bow, you needed years of training and physical strength. With a sword, you needed skill and courage to get close enough to use it. With a musket, you needed about a week of training and the ability to point in the general direction of your enemy. Suddenly, any farmer or shopkeeper could be turned into a lethal soldier. Armies lined up in formations, fired volleys at close range, and watched entire rows of men drop simultaneously. The smoke, the noise, the sheer chaos of musket warfare was unlike anything the world had seen. And because these weapons were relatively cheap to produce, wars could now involve massive conscript armies instead of small professional forces. Ranking. 6 out of 10 for lethality. Individually, muskets weren't that impressive, but scale them up to thousands of soldiers firing in coordinated volleys, and you've got industrial age warfare. Industrial Revolution era. The Industrial Revolution gave humanity factories, railroads, and the ability to mass-produce death on a scale that would make medieval warlords weep with envy. Welcome to the era where killing became efficient. The deadliest weapon of this era? The Maxim gun, the world's first truly automatic machine gun, invented in 1884. This thing could fire 600 rounds per minute with a single operator. To put that in perspective, a skilled soldier with a rifle might get off 15 shots per minute if they were really hustling. The Maxim gun could mow down entire waves of advancing troops before they could even get close. European colonial powers used these weapons to devastating effect in Africa and Asia, where indigenous forces armed with spears and outdated rifles didn't stand a chance. At the Battle of Omdurman in 1898, British forces equipped with Maxim guns killed over 10,000 Sudanese warriors while suffering fewer than 50 casualties themselves. It wasn't a battle, it was a massacre. The machine gun fundamentally changed warfare. Cavalry charges became suicide missions. Advancing infantry had to learn to dig trenches and move under cover. The romantic notion of honorable combat died the moment someone could hold down a trigger and erase dozens of lives in seconds. Ranking 7 out of 10 for lethality. The machine gun made traditional warfare obsolete overnight and set the stage for the industrialized slaughter of World War I. World War I era. World War I was humanity's first truly industrial-scale conflict, and the weapons reflected that. Tanks, airplanes, flamethrowers, and improved machine guns all made their debut. But the deadliest weapon of this era wasn't designed to kill quickly. It was designed to inflict maximum suffering. The answer? Chemical weapons. Specifically, mustard gas. Imagine you're sitting in a trench. You haven't seen action in days. Suddenly, a yellowish-brown cloud appears on the horizon, rolling toward you with the wind. You can't shoot it. You can't fight it. Your only option is to run and hope you're fast enough. You're not. The gas envelops you completely. Your skin begins to blister. Your eyes swell shut. Every breath feels like inhaling shards of glass. You're screaming, and so is everyone around you. If you somehow survive the initial exposure, you'll spend weeks in agony, coughing up pieces of your own lungs, vomiting, and slowly going blind before finally dying. Both sides used chemical weapons extensively during WWI, causing over 1 million casualties. The effects were so horrifying that international treaties eventually banned their use in warfare. In a conflict that killed 20 million people, chemical weapons were considered too inhumane. Let that sink in. Ranking 8 out of 10 for lethality, not because of the immediate death toll, but because of the psychological terror and prolonged suffering. Chemical weapons didn't just kill soldiers, they broke them. World War II era. World War II saw the refinement of nearly every weapon from the previous war. Better tanks, faster planes, more efficient ways to kill large numbers of people quickly. But one weapon stood above all others, and its introduction fundamentally changed human history forever: the atomic bomb. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped a single bomb, nicknamed Little Boy, on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. In an instant, 80,000 people were vaporized. Not killed, vaporized. Their shadows were burned into the walls where they'd been standing. Tens of thousands more died in the following weeks from radiation sickness, a slow and agonizing death. 3 days later, a second bomb hit Nagasaki. Japan surrendered less than a week after that. Think about that. 2 bombs ended a war that had already killed over 70 million people. No invasion necessary. No prolonged campaign. Just 2 explosions, and suddenly everyone realized that continued fighting meant potential extinction. The Manhattan Project, the secret program that developed these weapons, cost over $2 billion in 1,940 seconds money and employed over 130,000 people. Scientists knew they were creating something unprecedented. Some even feared the initial test might ignite the atmosphere and end all life on Earth. They tested it anyway. Ranking 9 out of 10 for lethality. A single bomb could destroy an entire city. But as devastating as atomic bombs were, they're not even the deadliest weapon we've created. Cold War divided by modern era. After seeing what atomic bombs could do, you'd think humanity would step back and reconsider our life choices. Instead, we asked, how can we make this worse? And boy, did we find an answer. The deadliest weapon ever created? The thermonuclear bomb. also known as the hydrogen bomb. If atomic bombs were horrifying, hydrogen bombs are apocalyptic. They don't use nuclear fission like the bombs dropped on Japan. They use nuclear fusion, the same process that powers the sun, recreated on Earth for a fraction of a second. The largest ever detonated was the Tsar Bomba, tested by the Soviet Union in 1961. The mushroom cloud reached 67 kilometers high. That's 7 Mount Everests stacked on top of each other. The shockwave circled the Earth 3 times. Windows shattered 900 kilometers away. If this bomb had been dropped on New York City, it would have caused third-degree burns to people in Philadelphia over 150 kilometers away. Here's the truly insane part. The Tsar Bomba was scaled down before testing. The Soviets reduced its yield because they were afraid of what a full-power detonation might do. The scaled-down version was still 3,000 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Today, there are thousands of these weapons stockpiled around the world, each one capable of erasing entire cities. The only reason we haven't used them since 1945? Mutually assured destruction. Everyone knows that if one goes off, everyone launches theirs, and civilization ends. We've created a weapon so deadly that its existence prevents its own use. Probably. Ranking: 10 out of 10 for lethality. A single modern thermonuclear weapon can kill millions instantly. A coordinated strike could end human civilization. We literally created the ability to destroy ourselves completely, and then just decided to live with that hanging over us forever. From rocks to bombs that can end the world, humanity has gotten disturbingly good at destruction. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment on which weapon surprised you the most.